open the door."
That's what the voice outside my apartment kept whispering. The problem was, my neighbor was already inside his apartment, and I could hear him screaming. It started earlier that night. At exactly 11:52 p.m., someone knocked on my door. When I opened it, my neighbor, Mr. Carter, looked terrified. Not confused, not angry. Terrified. He leaned closer to me and whispered, "Whatever you do tonight, don't open your door." Then he walked back into his apartment, locked the door, and I heard 3 different locks click. The strange part is, 10 minutes later, he knocked again. But to understand why that moment bothered me so much, I need to explain something. I had just moved into that building 3 days earlier. It was an old apartment complex just outside Portland, Oregon. The kind of place where half the lights in the hallway flicker and the elevator makes noises that sound like it might snap at any moment. But the rent was cheap, and I needed somewhere fast. My apartment was 3B. My neighbor, Mr. Carter, lived in 3A. He was a thin man in his 60s with gray hair and deep lines in his face. He always looked nervous. Every time I saw him in the hallway, he glanced behind him before going inside. At first, I assumed he was just paranoid, but looking back now, I realize he was probably scared of something. And that night, I finally understood why. Earlier that evening, at exactly 11:52 p.m., he knocked on my door. At the time, I thought something had happened. Maybe someone broke into the building. Maybe he needed help. But when I opened the door, he didn't ask for anything. He just stared at me, then whispered, "Whatever happens tonight, don't open your door." I frowned. Why? He looked down the hallway, then back at me. "If someone knocks, pretend you're not home." Then he walked back into his apartment, locked the door, and I heard the 3 locks click again. I stood there confused for a moment, then went back inside. Old buildings attract strange people, and at the time, I figured he was just one of them. So I sat on the couch and started watching something on Netflix. For a while, everything was normal, until about 10 minutes later, someone knocked again. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. At first, I assumed it was Mr. Carter again. Maybe he forgot something. So I walked toward the door. But something felt wrong. The hallway outside was completely silent. No elevator noise. No footsteps upstairs. Nothing. Still, I leaned forward and looked through the peephole. No one was there. Just the dim yellow hallway light. I stared for a few seconds, trying to figure out what I had just heard. Then suddenly, knock, right against the door. I jumped. My heart started racing. I quickly looked through the peephole again. The hallway was still empty. That's when I remembered what Mr. Carter said. Don't open the door. So I stepped away and tried to ignore it. For the next 20 minutes, nothing happened. Eventually, I convinced myself someone had been messing with me. Maybe kids in the building. Maybe someone knocking and running away. So I went into the kitchen to grab some water. And that's when I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, dragging footsteps. They moved down the hallway until they stopped right outside my door. I froze. Then something pressed gently against the door, like someone leaning their head against it. Then a voice whispered through the wood, "Hello?" My stomach dropped because the voice sounded exactly like Mr. Carter. "Could you open the door, please?" I didn't move. Something about the voice felt wrong. Then it spoke again. "It's me, your neighbor." Slowly, I walked toward the door. "Mr. Carter?" There was a pause. Then the voice answered, "Yes." But something about it felt off, like someone trying to copy his voice. Too careful, too slow. I leaned toward the peephole again and looked out into the hallway. No one was there. The hallway was empty. But the voice was still speaking, right outside my door. Then it asked something strange. "Why are you looking through the peephole?" My blood went cold, because the peephole has a metal cover on the outside. No one can see when someone is looking through it, unless they're standing directly against the door. Before I could even react, I heard a loud crash from the apartment next door, from Mr. Carter's apartment. Furniture being knocked over, something hitting the wall. I ran to the wall between our apartments. "Mr. Carter?" For a moment there was silence. Then I heard his voice, weak, from inside his apartment. "Don't open the door." My stomach dropped instantly, because the voice in the hallway spoke again at the exact same time. "Open the door." Two voices, the same man, but from two different places. Then the scratching started. Long, slow scratches across the door, like fingernails dragging across wood. The voice outside began laughing, but it don't sound human. It sounded like someone learning how to laugh. Then it spoke again, this time in my voice. "Open the door." Then the door handle slowly turned. Once, twice. Something outside was trying to get in. Then suddenly, everything stopped. Silence. A few seconds later, I heard footsteps walking away down the hallway. Slow, dragging footsteps. I didn't move for almost 10 minutes. Eventually, I forced myself to look through the peephole again. The hallway was empty. I waited another 5 minutes, then slowly unlocked the door. One lock, then another, then the third. Carefully, I opened it. The hallway was completely empty, but something was lying on the floor outside my door. A small piece of paper. I picked it up. It was a note from Mr. Carter. It said, "If it learns your voice, it will try to come inside." My stomach dropped, because at that exact moment, from the dark end of the hallway, I heard my own voice whisper, "Hello?" And suddenly, the whisper came from right behind me.